Clerk of the House of Representatives noted that. Andrew, and now
we're just slightly over time, so we'll just keep rolling on. Mr. Gaddis, are you there?
No, it's just
Hello, good morning.
Good.
Yeah.
I am joined in my submission today by Associate Professor Edward Willis, who's also here at Otago. He wasn't able to get a slot on his own, so we're giving you a 2-for-1 deal. Ed is going to open up with some comments, and I'll have some comments, and we'll try to leave time for questions.
Yeah, kia ora, everyone. Thank you for accommodating me like this. Well, very quickly, all I really wanted to say is I don't think any submission other than mine, although I haven't read them exhaustively, touches on the empirics of what the difference between a 3-year term versus a 4-year term would actually do. The evidence base is incredibly unclear, and I only make that point to say that there is no real strong empirical case that Parliament will function better, that government will be able to get its policy agenda through if we move to a 4-year term. Given that lack of empirical evidence, I really think this is a judgment call that needs to be part of a wider process. This is not a technical change. This is something that affects New Zealanders across the board, and more of an engaging process, educating the public about what's going on, giving them a voice in this earlier would have been a much better way to run the process. So that's all I really want to say.
Thank you, Professor.
So I actually, just having heard the Clerk of the House's submission, I just like to 100% endorse what he says. I think the bill should be amended to make this a simple choice for the voters, 3 years or 4. I think tying the length of the term of Parliament to a precondition of proportionality on select committees is a mistake. I think if you put that into the legislation, you bake it into how our process works. And it may well be that such a proportionality requirement actually has negative consequences, and baking it into the process, baking it into our law, making it very hard to change away from that could actually lead to a worse scenario where you get 4-year terms as well as select committees that aren't working well. And that would actually be a worse situation. So I think take that proportionality requirement out of the bill. As the clerk said, develop a range of standing order changes that will allow for better process within the House. And one thing you could even think about is convince the public that those standing order changes will lead to a better system by adopting them via sessional order for the last term of this Parliament. And actually show the public, if you vote for 4 years, this is what Parliament will look like because we will have these new rules in place. So that's just something to think about in terms of, if you like, preparing the ground so the public actually gets an idea of what a change would look like. Anyway, questions are welcome.
Thank you, Professor. I've got Ms. Celia Wade-Brown.
Thank you very much. Just on that question of making a number of procedural improvements to select committees and scrutiny and so forth, and Scrutiny Week is relatively new to Parliament. Do you think that there are any of the potential improvements that would be problematic for 3 years if we ended up sticking with 3 years? I mean, if they're improvements, presumably they're improvements 3 years or 4 years.
Yep, that's really true. You could make the argument that these would be good things in any case. I guess perhaps around some of the issues around urgency, etc., there could be an argument made, look, if you only have 3 years, sometimes you've got to use urgency in a situation where you wouldn't necessarily need to do so in 4. So, I mean, it's an argument, but I think that's the sort of thing you'd have to work through as to which changes are just good changes full stop versus which things are better in a 4-year environment than 3.
Thank you. Right, Mr. Bates.
Thanks very much. I just wouldn't mind you expanding on your view on the international evidence or lack thereof for the value of an extended term.
Yeah, so the political science literature has looked at comparative examples that the evidence base, all the papers are referenced in my written submission. The evidence base is very inconsistent. Some people claim it makes a difference, some people don't. The ones that say it make a difference tend to be systems very different to ours, and where they do say it improves things, it's actually not because Parliament has more time. There's a strategic payoff benefit. People who know they're going to be representatives in the future take a more long-term view, and so they get the public kudos, if you like, of having done something many years prior. So there isn't a clear case one way or another, and I just sort of think it's important that the committee realises that.
Okay, maybe just to run that out, it might be useful if you provide anything on that to the committee, given if you further submission on that if you so wish. But thank you both professors for your contribution. We're now about to go and just talk to some more professors. Let's bring.
Okay. You 2 cents worth.
That's very good. What do you say? He thinks rather than predetermined goals for why it should be a 4-year term versus a 3-year term, worry a bit less about consider the proportionality. And yeah, I like that they said, maybe assure. There was a better word, but assuring the public that we're got a range of standing orders, so that
well, we do already have a standing orders committee, and at every Parliament they update the rules to see what's in the next one. Now, this is something that came in from Jeff. ACT wants proportionality in select committees. Not exactly. Okay. ACT wants to make the proportionality of the select committees based on the non-executive members only. at the moment in Parliament we have 123 MPs, but we have a cross between ministers, inside cabinet ministers, outside cabinet, and under secretaries is we have 31. So it would base the proportionality either on 89 or on 92 MPs is how the proportionality works on select committees, which which in theory would mean they would be more opposition led. In theory, because they would have an opposition majority, because your executive, the government, would be in there. Now, one of the unusual things about New Zealand is we have a high executive to legislative ratio, with the fact that we've got like 31 in the executive between under secretaries and ministers inside and outside cabinet, and we have 123 MPs in Parliament based on a 120 seat model with overhangs. In the case of Australia, they have a 150 seat Parliament. They also have a 76 seat Senate. So that makes it 226 members of Parliament. And they have what is known as a 40 member cabinet, which is 20 members is the inner cabinet, and then there's 20 minutes outer cabinet, which in our local term will be minister outside cabinet, is probably the best way to describe that, or minister outside that. So the numbers are there. So we don't have enough MPs to actually do the scrutiny of the executive, I believe, in this country. But we seem to have the appetite of having less MPs, not more, and we have an appetite of overstretching our MPs. Anything you want to add to that, Ray?
No, that was astute. That was really,
Yeah.
yeah.